Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. Lots to get into tonight. Ville Koivunen is on the menu, as is Mike Tomlin. We'll get into the Steelers in their first preseason game coming up on Thursday right here on KDKA. But the #1 topic tonight is the Pittsburgh Pirates, who lost their 6th series in a row. Here to talk about is your panel. We have Jeff Hatthorn. He is the man up at 93.7 The Fan, the sports director. Below him, it's Chris Mueller. And Chris, of course, with the PM team, 2 to 6 every day. And Ray Fittipaldo from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who covers the Steelers all the time. Simple question to start this one. Jeff, we'll start with you. Pirates are now 5.5 behind. 5 teams they have to overcome with 42 games left. Are they done?
Yeah, you know, the big thing about this year is just when you think they're done, they find a way to bounce back. They would have to go 27-15 to reach 85 wins, which might be too low to get into the playoffs. I mean, I haven't seen anything. You mentioned the 6th series that tells me that they're going to get back in this, let alone finish out of the cellar in their own division. Forget about playoffs at this point.
Jeff, I'm with you. I have been more bullish than most people on this team's fortunes all year, and I've said they're a good baseball team, great offense. They get bullpen arms. They're going to be in really good shape. I praised Ben Cherington on Monday for the work that he did. They're done. I mean, they look lifeless against the Mets, who are basically the Mets went down in flames in April, and this team came out against 2 left-handed pitchers out of 3 games in this series, did what they always do, which is nothing against lefties, looked completely inept, incompetent. They just look like they don't even want to be out there sometimes. They're going down meekly. These at-bats look pathetic. I hate saying it, but they are, in fact, done. I guess welcome to Pittsburgh, Luke Weaver. They're not going to need you.
Yeah, to me, guys, their starting pitching has let them down. We've known for a while their bullpen was well below the line, but when your starting pitching can't get you through a 3-game series against the Mets without giving you 2 bad performances, you know it's done. So to me, that was their biggest issue going into the season. We all thought these young arms were going to be enough. Looking back, I think they needed a better veteran option in there rather than counting on all these young guys to step up and expect them to be great pitchers right off the bat.
That's true, and they could have gotten one at the trade deadline. Even though Ben Cherington brought in a lot of arms, they didn't bring in a bat to end their hex on left-hand starting pitchers as well as a starter, and there were some available. So, Jeff, back to you on this one. If you have to play the blame game, if they don't make the playoffs, which is something they said that was their goal, who gets the most of the blame here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's too simple just to blame one thing or one person. I'm into what Ray was just saying there. I know the bullpen is the biggest Achilles heel on this team, but I think that bullpen was hurt severely by an underperforming starting pitching unit. I mean, across the board, except for Ashcraft, they were an underperforming group. Some of that's on the pitching coach. In fact, I put a lot of that on the pitching coach. But those guys still have to go out and execute. The group that was supposed to be your strongest is the biggest disappointment. And I know you can't put it all on the starting pitching, but I think because that pitching wasn't what it needed to be, this great offense you had, they impacted the bullpen where they relied on Santana too much, and that was a grave error which cost them a lot. But that rotation needed to be better, and they were disappointing.
So I'm going to say that the cop-out answer here I would love to give is I'm just going to blame the players, because it's easy to blame the GM, who could have done a lot more. And I want to blame the whole team and just say, my God, they've all, to varying degrees at varying times, looked listless. But I will put it on Cherington in this way. He trusted this bullpen before the season. He just assumed Dennis Santana, who did not have some extensive track record of greatness, had turned a corner. They would be, even with this really desultory stretch of play here for the last 6 series now, if they had just won these 7 or 8 games where they were in the 8th inning or later with a 90% probability to win or greater, they would be in perfectly fine shape right now. They'd be in a wild card spot most likely. So I will say Cherington and the bullpen, because they sabotaged this season way back months ago, that has had a cascading, a trickle-down effect to right now.
And I just think the lack of depth overall within the organization, but especially at shortstop and center field, I think you're seeing that play out right now. You're not going to expect those guys to go down for the number of weeks and months it's been, but still, when you don't have good players to put in there, I think we've seen that the last, really since the All-Star break. The offense hasn't been there, and I just think the lack of depth is really showing through right now. And yes, that's on the front office, but it's also on ownership for not going out there and spending more money, giving Ben Cherington more money to spend in the offseason.
The Pirates are closer to the Mets in reality than they are the third and final wild card. So, Jeff, at the end of the season, this is a results business. You got to win. And it's 7 years, and Ben Cherington's been here, and they have not won. In fact, they finished in last most of the time. I don't know if he has a contract that goes multiple years, no years. Is he at the end? What should they do with him, and how does that affect Don Kelly in your view?
I mean, this was the discussion at the end of last year, and they decided that they felt like they were going in a better direction, that the arrow was pointing up, and that this was going to be a good year. And you know what? For half of it, it was a pretty good year. Even with the bullpen implosions, they were right there in a playoff spot. They had an opportunity to be in it, and then they've just fallen apart since the All-Star break. The season isn't over. So barring some huge finish, I don't know how he would sell his bosses, and he being Cherington, that, hey, look, we're going in a better direction. You could say, hey, we've got these bullpen arms. I got guys that are going to be back next year. It can't be this much worse. I mean, he's going to have to put on a hell of a sell job, because we heard it, point blank period, that this team was going to be in the playoffs this year.
So here are the good things that Ben Cherington's done on a relatively shoestring budget. I agree with Ray that the owner, Bob Nutting, needs to put more money forth to try to build a team, even if it's just to build quality depth behind your starting nine, game in and game out. Beyond that, okay, Ben Cherington brought in Brandon Lau, brought in Ryan O'Hearn. His people drafted Connor Griffin, Paul Skeens, Seth Hernandez. His people found and developed and signed Esmeralyn Valdez, who, despite the fact that he has like one hit in August and it's off a position player throwing ephus balls, I still think is going to be good. He's done all these good things. Fire him if they don't get somehow to like 83, 84 wins and are in it in the last week of the season. It is a results-based business. All those good players I named that Ben Cherington's responsible for will have still just added up to a whole lot of nothing for the Pirates. Let somebody else take over with a reasonably stocked cupboard and see if they can get this thing over the hill next year.
Chris, everything you said is right, but in today's Major League Baseball, it's easier to fire the manager. We'll see what Bob Nutting does. Donnie Kelly only has 1 year under his belt, but that's just the way it is in today's baseball. It's harder to change GMs if you're the owner. It's easier to change the manager.
But normally when you change the GM, the manager is soon to follow, just because that guy's going to bring in his own. That's going to be very interesting to follow at the end of this year. Quite frankly, to sum this whole thing up, the Pirates are just not prepared to play 162 games and win in that situation. They're just not. And here they are now, facing some good teams coming up with the Red Sox this weekend. Then they got the Dodgers and the Padres. It does not look good at this point. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Steelers' first preseason game. How much do we expect to see from Aaron Rodgers in this game and the quarterback situation in general? We'll get into that and more right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. As always. Steelers, Green Bay Packers, 7 o'clock right here on Thursday night. Ray Fittipaldo, I want to ask you about the quarterback situation. It's been made known that Aaron Rodgers is going to play. Should he play? And how will this affect the two guys behind him, not named Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers has to prove. To me, it's probably Mike McCarthy wanting to see him hook up with DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. and Roman Wilson. That's probably what's at play here. I still think there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Will Howard and Drew Aller to show what they got. We know what Mason Rudolph can do. To me, this entire preseason, these next 3 weeks, I want to know, what do they have in Will Howard? What do they have in Drew Aller? And how does that affect their 2027 offseason?
And to that point, I don't want to see Aaron Rodgers. You don't need to see Aaron Rodgers. He had 4 touchdown passes, albeit against the Jets, in the first game without playing in the preseason with a new organization and a whole new coaching staff. He knows McCarthy. You need to see the other quarterbacks. You don't need to see Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that this offense is going to look better because it's going to be run by Mike McCarthy and be an offensively sort of focused franchise, it's still Aaron Rodgers' offense, guys, because Aaron Rodgers runs what he wants to run within the confines of whatever offense he happens to be in. I don't need to see him. Ray, you hit it on the head with Rudolph. They know exactly what he is and what he isn't. I think Will Howard's the guy more than Drew Aller by far who needs to show that he can do something in this game because if Drew Aller looks like the more polished player and has the physical attributes, Howard's in big trouble pretty early here.
And Chris, I would tell you, I think if Howard has a good preseason through 3 games, that wins him a roster spot. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be Mason. I really think it's going to come down to that. Even though what McCarthy said about Mason, he said a lot of good things about all the quarterbacks. I think it's Will's job to win, and if he doesn't, then it's Mason's job.
All right, Ray, I want to ask you about looking at some of these guys on the bubble. There are a lot of veterans who could lose their job. Who do you think is on the bubble from that point of view? Guys who've been here who may not make it on the final 53.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys. Caleb Johnson is in his second year, 3rd-round pick out of Iowa. It is extremely rare for front offices to move off a 3rd-round pick that early, but he's got a ways to go in that competition. Travis Homer is a big part of that special teams unit. And then if you want to go on defense, I'd pick out a guy like Logan Lee. They bought in Gabriel Rubio as a 6th-round pick. Logan Lee has been injured, hasn't been out there, so there were two guys from Iowa, recent draft picks, who might be in trouble.
And guy, I would add Malik Harrison is a guy at linebacker. You know, Carson Bruner has worked his way up into the 2nd spot in the depth chart. He's played well this camp. Maybe Asante Samuel would have been a guy at some point, but the way he's played in camp, he's earned himself a roster spot. So, I mean, Harrison is the one big guy to me that I look at that could be in real trouble to make this team.
My question to both of you guys who are actually seeing practice is, does that mean you would just consider Cole Holcomb, even with the recent injury history, completely safe? Like Carson Bruner isn't unseating him? Because I just wonder about his place if Peyton Wilson takes the jump they want him to take in Queens there. Do you want a somewhat high-priced guy as a backup?
I think for me, Malik Harrison might be a one-trick pony. He's a downhill run stopper. I think Cole Holcomb gives you a little bit of both. Now, he's not going to go out there and play 3 downs for you, but he's a little bit more adept at covering tight ends and such. So I think he probably does have the edge. I agree with Jeff on that one.
All right, Jeff, I want to ask you this. X factor, give me 2 names. An X factor for the Steelers on offense. Who will help them, an X factor on defense? Doesn't have to be all, Metcalf, we know, all these big names, but give me another name, somebody who maybe we're not talking about on each side of the ball.
All right, I'm going to go way out there and say Riley Nowakowski. There were tears in my eyes watching practice as they lined up in the I formation. Oh my goodness, it was an I formation set up with the fullback. If he can give them 15 plays where he can open up holes, he can be a pass protector, they can use him, as an extra offensive lineman, if you will. That might be a difference maker for me on the offensive side. And on the defensive side, there are a number of players. You can't say Nick Herbig because even though he's not a starter, this isn't a guy that's going to surprise people. Maybe I'll go with a name that's really come into his own, and even though he's listed as a starter, I'm going to say Y.A. Black is going to be so good that run defense is going to be much improved.
I'll go with 2 names. I'll go with Roman Wilson, which is barely an X factor, but my goodness, like we've heard, it's finally coming together for Roman Wilson. Everyone saw the great clip of somebody go, "Nice route, Roman," and everything else. So I'll say Roman Wilson finally figures out how to be an NFL player and gets on Aaron Rodgers' good side, and suddenly they have 3 legitimate, usable wide receivers that they like, and maybe 4 with Jeremy Bernard. And then how about Keanu Benton on the defensive side? Perpetual, do I even call him an under-the-radar X factor? No, but he's sort of a tweener who I think they're higher on than maybe even fans are. Maybe he makes the team look smart for believing in him and is really good this year.
And I'll say that if there's been one positive out of the Joey Porter contract stalemate, Asante Samuel Jr. has stepped up. I think that corner depth is better than we all thought. And don't forget about Dalen Everett, rookie 3rd-round pick out of Iowa. They really like him. He could be a part of things as well.
On offense, real quick, Way, who do you have on offense as someone who maybe...
I got Roman, too. I would love to say Jeremy Bernard, but Roman's done everything that they've asked. He is well ahead of Jeremy at this point, so I got to go with Roman as well.
All right, one guy who's no longer here, but he is a big voice in the NFL, is Mike Tomlin. When we come back, we're going to assess his first day on the job at NBC Sports. That's coming up right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We saw an interesting Hall of Fame game. Mike Tomlin in the booth, so to speak. Kenny Pickett starting at quarterback. Funny how that all works. Guys, I'm going to ask you two questions here in the same time. We'll start with you, Chris. Assess his performance. He was smooth operator. I knew that, and that's how he would be. But what did you think of his performance? And number two, do you think he will coach again? Because Bill Cowher hasn't, and a lot of people thought he would.
I thought he was smooth. I thought he was folksy. I thought he showed like that. We saw it in press conferences when he wanted to be fun and jokey and actually rip off a good one-liner. He was always capable of doing it. I think that was a low-pressure setting for him, even though they're on location. So I thought if he can match the tone and actually give some insight and analysis and be critical when it's warranted, I think he'll do fine. Part B of that question, no, I think he's done. I think he's going to find out that for $15 to $20 million a year, if he's good at it and people are praising him for it, he'll kind of like the lifestyle, not having to coach and grind the way you do when you're in that position.
Yeah, look at all these guys who have gone to TV and never come back. Bill Cowher won. Tony Dungy. The money is too good. We all know Mike Tomlin is a football junkie. Maybe he does come back, but as long as that money is good, I'll say no. I'll say he sticks in TV as well.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson is another one of those coaches. Listen, there was a part of me that was pained to watch Mike Tomlin hold a microphone because I know the disdain he has overall for our industry. To watch him do that and make all that money, but he's good at it. He knows how to put on a performance. He knows how to play to the camera. I think he's going to be really good at it. And to these guys' points, I never thought Cowher would stay in TV, that he'd go back to coaching. I think Tomlin's going to stay in TV too.
But you do all agree that his name will be coming up in conversations, right? Just like Cowher when it first happened. Every time there was an opening, Ray, there was a Bill Cowher rumor.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Tomlin should be at the top of that list. But to Jeff's point, as long as you can make 15 or 20 million a year for working, 2-3 days a week as compared to 7, that's a pretty good gig.
Yeah. What about having him do the Tomlin and Pony show? They bumped me out of there. That would be real electricity crackling. You think that would last more than 2 hours?
doesn't have the budget. You'd have to. There's no budget for that, and he's making. But I don't know what he's making. But the millions of dollars it does make for Jeff a very interesting lifestyle. You don't have to do any of that stuff, and you get paid big money, and you're still a big voice in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think once he sees all the time he could have to do whatever he wants, I think he's gonna enjoy that. So I think that's what these guys get caught up in. It's like, and plus the league has changed. I mean, now you got guys coming out of college that have made millions of dollars. Maybe it's not the same.
Yeah, we're going to take a break. When we come back, a very curious signing this week by Kyle Dubas. We'll explain why that happened, at least different opinions about why that happened. Coming up next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. #1 Cochran has gone all in on Audi. 2 showrooms, 3 locations for service. Pittsburgh's largest new Audi collection. Exclusive benefits through Club One Rewards. Because when you're a #1 Cochran premier brand, you don't take half measures. Find Audi Pittsburgh on Liberty Avenue in the Strip District and Audi Washington on Racetrack Road. Shop online, AudiPittsburgh.com or AudiWashington.com. Well, Kyle Dubas did a little shopping, Chris Mueller, and he went out and gave 8 years, $32 million to someone who really hasn't done much in the NHL at all. Ville Koivunen gets that deal. He'll be the highest paid player in AHL if he doesn't make it. My question is, where does he play on this year's team? There's a lot of guys here in front of him, or do you think the Penguins make a trade?
I mean, maybe they make a trade to start pushing forward with an actual rebuild. He's a top 6 forward as far as like his skill set. I can't see him mucking and grinding on the 3rd line, or certainly not the 4th line. I think we all know that. So you almost have to try to figure out a trade. That's what it would tell me, that they're maybe soft launching the idea that they're going to kick somebody out of here that you've been getting used to seeing for years, and that Koivunen's going to get a shot. But this is a massive gamble. I know it's only $4 million a year, guys. It is a big gamble on a guy with 2 career goals in 47 games.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would put it this way. They didn't have to do this contract. Like, why are you giving a guy who's had a couple of goals in his NHL career this kind of money when you don't know? I don't know where he'd fit in this lineup right now. I don't know if he breaks it right now. Now, if you trade Raquel, then okay, then you've got a spot for him, and maybe that's their thought process. But why did you have to give this guy? I realize you had to sign him, but why not 2-3 years? Why 8? Now, if he becomes a 20-25 goal scorer, then Dubas is a genius. But we haven't seen any hint of that to this point.
No, you don't do this unless you think he's going to be a top 6 player. Now, unless Raquel is moved, because you're not going to move anybody else in the top 6, unless Raquel is moved, it's going to be very interesting to see how they find playing time for this guy this season.
They signed Novak, okay, fine, but he's on the second line with Chinakhov and Malkin. And then you have guys like Robertson, Nick Robertson, not Jason. They brought him in. He's going to play. Kuzmenko, Chris, why would you bring him here if he's not going to play together with their fourth line, which is already pretty much established? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
What about a blockbuster if Brian Rust, you can actually convince him to be willing to move and you make a blockbuster deal for a guy that we know Sid loves? I'm with the guys, though. You have to trade one of the big names if you're going to put this guy in the lineup every night, because otherwise there's not a place for him to fit.
Final word to you, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, barring injury, I don't get it. You have other needs. You could use that money elsewhere. I don't understand it.
All right, out of time on that segment. Come back with more. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown each and every Sunday night, 11:35 on KDKA. It's been fun. We are done. Big thank you to Jeff Hatthorn, Chris Mueller, Ray Fittipaldo. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll do it again coming up in the future every Sunday night. Remember, we got the Steelers and Packers coming up on Thursday night, 7 p.m., the first of 3 preseason games on KDKA-TV. Have a good week. We'll see you again tomorrow on KDKA-TV.